So, just so I get it right, can we just start with introduction? So, please say and spell your name for me.
Yeah. Christopher Thao,
Okay.
Thao is my last name.
And Christopher?
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
The Chris.
T-O.
T-O-P-H-E-R.
Got it. Okay, and what was your title when you were with HAP?
I was the founder of Hmong American Partnership with Bob Anderson.
Got it. What year was that?
That was, we began the work really in the fall of 1989.
Got it. Okay, and yours?
And my name is Xiong. It's Leepaoxiong, and I was the second executive director of Hmong American Partnership.
Okay, and Maisa?
Mine's Thao, Mayerthao, President and CEO, current President and CEO.
I forgot to ask, when did you leave?
9 years, so that would
Okay.
be about the year 2000.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then when was your time frame?
Our time frame was from 92 to 95.
Got it. And then Maisa, you are current.
Current.
When did you start?
2021.
Okay. And then?
I'm Kou Vang, Kouvang. I was the Director of Finance and Administration for HAP. You were 2002? So I must have been 2003, and I left the year after you, so 2006?
That's right.
No,
This is
90,
taking you
no,
way back.
90.
Yeah,
You're
90.
93 to 96.
Yeah, you came in
Yeah.
93.
Yeah, 93, 96.
I left in 95.
Yeah,
Days
so,
96.
right. So,
Got it. Okay, well, let's enjoy.
Holy smoke.
That's a long time. Oh my gosh.
You're grown up.
Yeah.
You're all grown up.
Well, let's enjoy. By
Okay.
the way, what do we have here?
I don't even know, but please do enjoy. There, I know sesame balls and then
Yeah.
steamed flour
Yeah,
buns, right? Rice,
Tapioca.
tapioca. You know more than me. You should talk.
Yeah. What do we have?
I love to eat. So,
I know. This I do too, but I
Wait.
don't
Yeah.
know what's
So
in
how?
here.
Where does Hmong desserts? Where does it rank for Hmong food? It's your favorite, Maisa, isn't it?
yeah.
I love desserts.
Yeah.
I love desserts.
Yeah, some of these desserts are not
Not
really
Hmong.
Hmong. Yeah,
Yes.
not really
Yeah,
Hmong.
these-
I think that's the only one that's Hmong.
Yeah, the
that's-
steamed.
That's the only one.
Yeah.
Because I grew up eating that. You know,
Yeah.
But I think it's reshaped too.
Well, it's
Yeah.
colored.
The
Hmong
original,
stuff
which
is just
is-
white.
White.
Yeah,
yes.
which is white.
like a
It's
rice
not
cake.
colored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, please enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's
We
talk and
will.
we eat.
Well, thank you.
Food for thought. So, let's talk about when you all came to the United States, or when your families came to the United States. When about was that? Was it right after the end of the Vietnam War?
Pretty much so. I came here in 1976. So it was a year after the war. And,
No.
Yeah, October 22nd, 1976. And so at that time, only 10,000 people were allowed to come, from Hmong were allowed to come to America. So from 1976 to 1980. So, but moved to
so
Minnesota.
you just a month after me.
Yeah.
I came in September 3rd.
Okay.
Oh,
No, it's
wow.
my birthday.
Yeah, your birthday.
Side
Wow.
note, yes. I was like, oh, September 3rd. Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we were sponsored by a Mennonite family, a Mennonite church.
Yeah.
And of course, during that time, it was the resettlement agency that received contract from the State Department to resettle refugees. So like Lutheran Social Service, Catholic Charities, Mennonite Services, Church World Services. And so these resettlement agencies placed people where they had churches. And so that's why we ended up in Indiana.
Oh, you were in
Yeah,
Indiana.
sizable Mennonite community in the Bloomington, Bean Blossoms area.
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
My family came in 1976 as well, but they landed in South Dakota, Webster, South Dakota.
Awesome.
I was born in Merced, California in July 1977, so the first of my family to have been born here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Minnesota when I was about 3, so that was 1979 when we moved here.
Well, we landed in Chicago on June 12th, 1976. So I got here before all of you guys did.
Lucky beat us to it.
Yeah, I was 6 years old.
We know who's connected
Yeah.
to the CIA then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know who.
Yeah, and Chicago was there's a large Hmong population in Chicago. I think at that time it was Chicago and the Twin Cities, right? And then all the folks in Chicago kind of moved out because it's large city. We're not used to the large city. Then everybody kind of moved around and stuff of that nature. But at that time, in the mid '70s, there, it was either up here or in Chicago.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So then, do you remember? Did you all come through Thailand?
Yeah.
Okay, you all came, and then Minnesota wasn't your first stop, but this is where you ended up.
Yeah. The social safety net here in Minnesota was better than in Illinois, in Pennsylvania, in Arkansas, in the southern states. So, because the Americans who came here came from Northern Europe, and I think their hospitality was different from the southern in the state of in other states. And so, because of that, the Hmong need to find a place where they can continue to study the languages, be able to get job training, and be able to move up the social ladder. That's why we came here. I came to Arkansas, then I moved to Pennsylvania, and then my parents came and they moved here, so I followed them here.
I was just saying, it's also important to emphasize that we're a collective society. So you gravitate towards your family.
That's right.
And so if you have leaders in certain part of the country or family members, then you gravitate towards that. So here my uncle was the first Hmong refugee to be settled here in Minnesota.
Wait,
So-
Lang?
Yeah, Lang Wang.
I
Yeah.
interviewed him. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so he came here in February, right, of 1976, and so we kind of gravitate. We moved here in 1979, but again, because of the social structure,
Yeah.
the support system that was in place.
That's
here.
right.
Here in Wisconsin, the support structure is much better than our experience in other states, as refugees coming
Well,
in
that
here.
support structure had to start from somewhere.
Right.
Right. It
Right.
couldn't have been here when, it's not what it is now. So then when we're talking about the creation of HAP, I mean, did we really need it at that time?
Yes, we really need it.
By the way, we have to eat, we'll talk.
Yeah.
We will keep eating.
Eat. Okay, yes.
La Family Community was a Hmong association that sprung up to really help with the refugee resettlement issues among the Hmong communities. But as immigrants, you have shortcomings. You don't know the people in the community here. And in 1989, when there were cuts in refugee resettlement fundings, that's when American refugee committees began to cut their programs, and Bob Anderson was let go. His full-time job was cut to a part-time job. And so that's when Bob Anderson came to me and said, we need to do something. And that's when we began the process of building Hmong American Partnership. First is the partnership between Bob Anderson and myself, and then second is a partnership between the board members. We want to create an organization that nearly half of the board members are people in the community, the larger community. And third, we want to network with the greater community so that our children, high school kids and college students, they can have access to find employment in whatever areas they want to get into. Those are not part of the refugee resettlement issues, but they're part of the issues that the community have to deal with. And so that's why we call it Hmong American Partnership. It's really partnership between the individual who started, as well as the people on the board, and then with the community at large.
Was it hard to sell this idea when you first started?
No, it was not.
Really?
It was not. I think no one had talked about it, but I think it was in the goodness of the people living here in Minnesota, that is the kind of people that they are.
Right.
And so when you talked about this, they said, yeah, this is what we needed. This is what need to take place in order for refugees who settle here in Minnesota to succeed in their life, not just the parent generation, but their children and their grandchildren generation.
So you started from nothing. By
Nothing,
the
yeah.
end of your time, before you left, where was HAP? What was it?
Well, I think within 3 months, we received $300,000 from the foundations and from the state of Minnesota, and just continued to grow from there. I don't know what the budget was when I left, but I think maybe $1 million or so.
All millions, so yeah.
It's
Really?
it was 3.3 million
Yeah,
when I left.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He's
Yeah.
my director of finance, so he knows about it.
What year was
do the
it when you
politicking.
left?
96.
1996.
Yeah, it was 3.3 million.
From
So-
1990.
Yeah,
Yeah, from 1990 to 93, it's already 3 point. Okay.
3.3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's unique about Hmong American Partnership is truly a partnership between the Hmong and our American friends. And I think that's why the logo itself, it got the hand
Yes.
holding like this. And so it's a very unique organization, whereas other organizations, it's predominantly just all Hmong. You know, we're here, we'll say, okay, we're going to utilize the resources and the talents within the larger community to also help the Hmong community move forward.
That's
Why
right.
is it that Hmong American Partnership didn't want to rely on yourselves? You talked about the uniqueness, partnership with Americans. Why not just rely on yourselves? Because you guys know the needs of your community, right? Why?
I think that we know the needs of the community, but other people also bring to the organization the resources, not only monetary, but also, you know, this is how they've been here before. They've done this before. And so to be able to combine those two, I think that's what attracted me to go to the Hmong American Partnership. I was the director of Hmong Youth Association in Minnesota, working with young people. And so I think that, you know, again, the not only talent, but also resources.
That's right.
and
Well, this sounds
experiences.
very rosy at the moment, but you had to have
But
faced some challenges.
there were some issues with integrity. You know, as refugees, we settle in this culture. We don't know the culture. We don't know how nonprofit organizations are to operate, how you maintain your financial papers so that anyone and everyone can see. Those are the issues that are there but are not spoken. You know, they're just under
That's
the table.
right.
Right.
So as a lawyer, I know that those are the real issues that the funders, the state, the stakeholders who are supporting refugee resettlement issues, they are looking at. They may talk in their boardrooms or in their committees at the state or maybe at the foundations, you know, behind the door. You know, those are the issues. And so we need to solve that. You know, the way we solved that was to bring in people who are in both sides of the door, so that they can tell us what our financial papers need to look like. You know,
Yeah.
and that was one of the big issues that other refugees organizations face with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would
So
say
here's
that
a prime
is
example, right?
Yeah.
So when I joined HAP, we're doing this workforce training program, STRIDE, right?
Yes, right.
So STRIDE was a contract from the county but it went to another mainstream nonprofit who then subcontracted with us. So we did 100% of the work for 60% of the revenue, and Stride was keeping 40% of the revenue. Well, I didn't grow up here, so I didn't understand Hmong people needed to be quiet. And so when I came in, we looked at that, I kept going, I don't understand this. You're asking us to do 100% of the work and you're only giving us 60% of the budget. It doesn't work that way. So we had some numerous conversations with them, and the county then changed the program to the MFIP program at that time. So we decided we're not going to partner with that organization anymore. We're going to go in and be the prime contractor ourselves, which, again, because of the partnership, because of the fact that we had mainstream folks on staff, mainstream folks on board, providing us with that legitimacy, we won the primary contract. We then we felt bad, and so we went back and gave some of it to that organization, and we gave some of it to Lao family, right? It's that credibility. When you don't have it, you need it. Because if you don't have it, then you're always going to be seen as you need somebody to kind of oversee, right? And I think that is one thing which I'm the most proud of for HAP is when I left, there were a number of contracts where we were the primary contract relationship, and we didn't rely on anybody else.
And I want to go back to something interesting you said. You said you didn't know that Hmong people were supposed to be quiet, which I think speaks to this Asian stereotype, right? We were supposed to come here, stay quiet, put our heads down, work hard, and we'll succeed. But I think it speaks to the success of the Hmong community is that you didn't do that. And you also partnered with people outside of your community in an effort to grow. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. And I would say, Pauleen, being a younger generation following these amazing leaders, that evolution, the vision to know that we have to move our communities forward, which means we can't just work in a silo.
That's right.
We have to partner with mainstream communities. That vision from Dr. Christopher to then bring in leaders like Lee Pao, who had the technical skills, and Kou, to now have the technical skills to lead with integrity and transparency. That has been the evolution of HAP, and that has been how HAP has sustained ourselves as an organization, but grown to continue the work we do. The MFIP program that Kou talks about, we still have it under HAP, and we are still the number one MFIP provider in the county. Yes. And it speaks to truly the vision to keep growing our capacity, to learn from others, to then grow our own leaders and continue to cultivate integrity, transparency, and impact in the community.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest important thing is financial accountability.
Yes.
And I think that's why when we hire Kou and say, okay, make magic. So my background is public administration, right? My background is nonprofit management, and so really utilizing that that background and that experiences, and couple that with financial management, strong financial management. Kind of gave us that credibility and sustained the organization this day, because we want to be able to account for every dollars that we spend, all right, and then be able to produce what we promised the funders that we were going to do.
That's right.
But what you inherited from him, what kind of challenges did you face? Same challenges, or were they different? Did they evolve?
I think one of the key things during my administration was really focusing on data, be data driven. And at that time we had the census that just came out, right? And so the 1980 census, and we really look at that and say, okay, here's where our community's at. And so let's lift some of these numbers and make the argument why we still need these services. Because back then it's about access to services, right? And so you have the passion and you have the commitment from previous administration. Now, I like to build things. I always say I like to build things. And so really, how do you put all of that together and to say, okay, let's be this continuance of services here. How do we serve the whole person?
That's
We have a youth program, we have a self-sufficiency program, we have a parenting program. If young people are struggling, the parents may be struggling. So how do you also help And so how do you take care of the whole person
That's
in a sense, right? Instead of, fragmentations. And so one of the things that I did when I became the director there was we went from a model of single offices to a bullpen. To create collaboration, to encourage more collaboration within the various departments. We also established departments like youth and family, self-sufficiency, and so we broke it up into segments, but we also put them in the bullpen. So that when you stand up, you see that person sees you, and so you kind of encourage the collaboration work. And so that's what kind of put that together. And look, at that time, a lot of management programs were popular, and so you're looking at different management programs like how do we motivate employees, how do we increase productivities, and all of that stuff. And so for me, that was going through my mind as I was restructuring Hmong American Partnership.
So then your legacy obviously was you started it.
I started, but I was in the board, and so the work that I did was to really bring people in the community into the board, so that out of the board we can manage and make decisions for the organization. Well, we have to bring former executive from 3Ms and other big Fortune 500 companies here, a couple of them, to get on the board with us and to really help us and to really speak on behalf of Hmong American Partnership to the general public and to the foundations, saying that we are doing something new. And we refuse to pay our staff at the salaries that other refugees resettlement agencies pay, because if you do that, you will have a lot of turnovers. The job that you give to your staff will essentially be a stepping stone, but then there's not career kind of compensations. And so these executives from these firms argue for the kind of salaries for our staff that they can live with, they can buy a home with, they can raise a family with. Those are the kind of compensation we have to give to our staff so that we would retain good people to serve our community. That was an issue in the refugee resettlement community, and it was not focused until we bring in these executives in and said, no, this is a very important issue. We need to focus on this. And so we raised the salary of the executive director, the people who run the organization, the people who work at Hmong American Partnership. So immediately you create excitement for the people who work there, but also excitement with the funding community, the people who have financial stake in supporting refugees organizations, that this will be good, and so that was the main part of my focus.
Yeah. So then your focus was Jetta. Would that be kind of like your legacy too, like what you left it for the next one?
I think my really focusing on the management aspect of it, putting structure into the organizations, because before that, we were in different locations, and upstairs, downstairs, people had their own individual offices, and I'm like, this is not encouraging people to work with each other. And that's where I think Kou worked really well with JB Realty at that time to really say, we need a new facility, and we're growing, we need a new facility. We want to be able to create this kind of environment for the organization. And just, and I think so. For me, it was more solid structure and programmatic. I would say continuance of services providing to individuals.
And then Kou, what would you say your legacy? What did you leave for Mindza?
For Bao, actually.
For Bao, actually, yeah, okay.
I don't know if there's anything specific, but I think that, I think during our time there, right, besides county programs, we were selected on a federal program for the youth, for the youth program. And that was a whole program where there wasn't contract managers. Everything had to be done over the phone. At that time, you had to send your data in by by modem, and then you had to get paid through their systems and stuff. So creating that accounting system, trying to explain to people that, because I remember when I first started, the auditors came in, right? And I was asking everybody, well, what's the auditor do? And they're going, well, we don't know. We lock them into this really hot room. We make them really uncomfortable, then they leave, right? Well, after a while, you figure out, well, why are we paying them then, right? And so it's trying to create those relationships where we're leveraging these relationships of people helping us and trying to give us good advice and getting good financials and setting the expectations with staff. You have to keep in mind, when I joined Kou, I was a year out of college, okay? I was 23 years old, okay? And I mean, we were so young back then, we didn't know what we didn't know, right? And so, and you're in there managing staff, that are older than you, twice as old as you and stuff of that nature, and setting the foundation so that there is structure, because he wanted structure. Well, I needed to go set structure. He wanted financial statements in which he can explain to funders. I needed to go create financial statements, right? We had programs that, I don't know if you remember this, the first year which we did budget, I said to him, I said, well, why is it that every program controls their own budget and we only get 5% for general admin? He's like, well, that's the way it is. I go, we're not doing that anymore. It's HAP's money. It's not the youth program's money. It's not the self-sufficiency's money. It's HAP's money, which means HAP controls it, which means we're setting the program, right? And so creating those structure that can now be replicated and scale at a much better level.
Yeah, even development of budget. I mean, I mentioned before, let's do zero-based budgeting. Start from the bottom up, and so tell me and also argue why you need this budget, and why you need this line item. And so I think that's what won many of the funders out there.
Yes.
Is that how we go about doing it, and that we're squeezing every penny.
That's right.
And so we're not living luxuriously as an organization, but really being much more strategic in how we allocate our resources and how we ask for resources.
That's right.
So then, Mainza, how has HAP changed and evolved today? What did you inherit?
So, unfortunately, my direct predecessor, Kou Vang, couldn't join us because she's not feeling well. And she led HAP for 14 years, and I think her legacy, one of her many legacies she left behind, was the start of social enterprises, which helped diversify HAP's revenue so that we were not so reliant on grants. And those were unrestricted dollars so that we could actually cover administrative costs that our grants wouldn't cover. And so that was what was handed to me. Unfortunately, that also during COVID, many of our social enterprises had to be shut down. So when I came into HAP, we had one social enterprise left. Bao had retired almost a year earlier. And so when I came in, it was how do we rebuild post-COVID? Because the whole world had changed. Operations had changed. Infrastructurally, we had to change how we wanted to work with staff because staff wanted the flexibility that they had during COVID. And so now it's the whole, okay, post-COVID, what does this world now look like? When I came into HAP, we had a $12 million budget. So when Kou left in 2006 in Li Pao, that was a $3.3 million budget. When Bao left, we were at 12 million. We are now currently at 18 million.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been this continual building of the foundations that were created. And we continue to move down that path. Our programs have continued to expand. The next direction that HAP is headed, because we truly think about where our community needs are now in the next couple of years, 5 to 10 years. It is how do we now drive economic prosperity? Because that is the next step for our communities. How do we help our communities build wealth? But before they can even think about and sustain it, but before we can even do that, what education, what financial education do they need to know? So now we are going back to the basics of we need to provide financial education, financial empowerment tools so that we can start working towards driving wealth and driving generational wealth and making sure folks are taking care of the monies that they're building for their own families.
Yeah. But I think there is something that is built into the structure here from the beginning, and that is Hmong American Partnership is just not going to serve the Hmong.
Correct.
And when the Hmong become successful, and then they forget about all the refugees that is coming in. One thing that we want to build from the beginning is that we as a refugee community need to give back. You know, when we become successful, we need to give back. And the way we can give back is to serve other community too, and not only the Hmong people. And I think that was in there. I think it was trickled down when I left, but I think more refugees coming in, and we expand the service. And I think as a grandfather, you know, I look back as a grandfather at Hmong American Partnership, and I'm proud that Hmong American Partnership is not only serving the Hmong community, but that we are able to give back. And giving back to the community and to other people in need really bring tremendous joy.
And I have to say, Dr. Christopher, that was one of the reasons why I said yes to HAP when I came, because it's true. At some point, people cared enough about our communities, embraced us and invested in us, and that is now our job to give back to others. And that is the beautiful thing about HAP. I know during Bao's time we had our East African brothers and sisters coming in as refugees, and HAP opened the doors to our East African and Somali communities. And over the years, especially in this era we're in, it's also our Karen and Kareni brothers and sisters, and now Afghan refugees. And so HAP has truly become this hub for all immigrants and refugees, not just our Hmong and not just our Southeast Asian communities.
So is that what's next for HAP?
That is, and it's been, this has been HAP actually for the last 10, 15 years.
Even the 3-4 years in which we were there, I mean, there's significant partnership with Vietnamese Social Services, the Law Assistance Center, the Women's Associates of the Hmong and Lao, advancement for your
Hmong women.
Hmong women advancement. I mean, there's an affinity to making sure that, and I mean, in those 3 or 4 years, HAP went from a startup to probably the leading Hmong social or refugee social services in the Twin Cities. But there was also a need to not have everybody else get killed off. Right? Everybody else had to kind of come together.
Why is that?
And so we were partnering with every one of those. I remember being fiscal agents and writing checks to all those people. What are we doing? Why are we paying their bills?
We were leading Southeast Asian Community Coalition for Youth and Families, right? And so really tackling the gang issues. So we were like the leading organization doing that. In fact, other people call us gang members, gang leaders. I'm like, we're helping our community, pulling people together, and so those are things that we were doing, and also bringing different organizations that worked on employment issues and going to the state legislature and getting money from the state legislature to help our community become economically self-sufficient. Because you got to remember, during that time, I mean, based on the census, 60% of our community lives below the poverty line. But at the same time, 60% were still in school. So obviously it makes sense. You're in school and you're not working, so therefore you're going to be...
That's correct. But the census is huge, right?
Yeah,
but you get funding.
Yeah, but now only 30% of the community lives in poverty. So it's reduction in half. And so now how do you also, since you build the infrastructure, how do you also use that infrastructure to help other refugees who are experiencing the same need that we were experiencing way back then? And I think that's what set HAP in a very unique position. But at the same time, during our time, it was more access to services. Now it's more access to opportunities.
That's right.
Now you have people who are well off now. How do we access the contract?
That's right.
From at the state or at the county or the city or so on and so forth. And so it's totally different. I think different time frame, different need, but at the same time, there's still some core component to helping people who are struggling to survive and struggling to continue to be lifted out of poverty.
How many services does HAP offer now?
Oh, wow.
Do you know?
We have 20-some programs. But
And it ranges again from
It
everything.
ranges.
Yeah.
We call them impact areas,
Right.
otherwise known as departments. So we have our community impact, which is still our direct social services. Some of the programs that we had with these leaders still exist. But we now do SNAP enrollment, MNsure enrollment. We work with chemical abuse recovery groups, youth and violence prevention, human trafficking prevention, and that all falls under our community impact area. And then we have our economic prosperity impact area, which is our economic development arm. And we are a CDFI, which is a federal certification where we do micro lending to small businesses. And we provide them with technical assistance. And then our third area now is our HAP Academy OIC, which is workforce development, and really providing true workforce development courses, the opportunities to connect with employers, to have internships, to become career ready, and so numerous programs under that as well. 20-some programs under HAP.
But I think we should also not lose sight of the fact that why we have staff working at this organization, we build them up. After they leave Hmong American Partnership, they will land into other jobs that will continue to prosper. That they will continue to prosper. They continue to offer services that will open doors for them to go beyond, and I think like Xiong himself end up going to the universities, serving not only the Hmong here, but the Hmong everywhere, like Mr. Kou Vang. He left there, he go to work at the bank, and then from there he started his own business, his real estate business, and become prosperous in what he does. And he probably have more employees under him than at any time in Hmong American Partnership. That is the kind of work that we want to see, and that's why from the beginning we insist on paying our staff a living wage. Honor them where they are, honor them and put a validation on them and say, hey, you are somebody. You are not a staff just come and do the work that we have here, but we want to see you and acknowledge that you are a leader.
Because their success comes back.
It does back to the community.
And right now they're giving back, even though they're no longer employee of HAP, but they are giving back to the community, giving back to Hmong American Partnership in ways that you can't put a number on. I think that is really one of the great things about Hmong American Partnership. We can go to our former staff and they will have wonderful stories to tell about how Hmong American Partnership really helped them and put them in a position where they can see opportunities for themselves. And I think that's a great thing that
we need to eat. You guys eat as we talk.
And I think one of the things that I joke oftentimes is people that used to work for me some of them are millionaires now. And I'm still where I am.
Some of us are
We always say that, we go through three stages in our life. The stage of dependency, the stage of preparatory and the stage of contributions. And so when you look at it, we have many people in our community now who are doing very well and contributing back to the community.
right.
And I think we're at that stage. And there's some people that are still, again, struggling. I mean, they're still preparing themselves and moving forward. But I think this age of prosperity is also a result of the fact that education is very important for the Hmong community. And we know the value of education, right? And so I think that's what allowed us to be where we are now.
That's right.
And
And I
that
would
is a
say,
very, what Christopher says there is very important because you think about it. I mean, you were what, 25?
25, yeah.
He was
I was a
25,
young kid.
right? I was 23.
I was the youngest executive director at that time, wherever I go.
But they see the importance of having Hmong leaders, right?
That's
Hmong
right.
in positions of authority, Hmong in positions of management. Where else would you hire a 25-year-old kid and a 23-year-old kid to do what we do with no executive experience? Him, a year, me, none, right? But yet we're in there, and these guys go, okay, don't screw it up, guys.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say too, just earlier we had,
Okay.
no, that's okay. I was saying just earlier before I came here, we have a group. So it's the building up of leaders that HAP has done. In my 3 years I've been here at HAP, I've met so many people out in the community who said, I used to work for HAP and now this is where I'm at. It is so amazing to me, even though I wasn't part of their journey. It makes me so proud that I'm part of an organization that has grown so many leaders. But it's not just here locally, it's not just individually with leaders like these folks. It's also, we have fellow nonprofits from outside Minnesota who come, and over the years they've come to visit HAP to learn from us how we do the work we do. For instance, this was not during my time. My predecessor, Bao, during her time, the Fresno Center, which is a Hmong-led nonprofit in Fresno, California, they came and visited HAP. And they are now the second largest Hmong-led nonprofit in the nation following HAP. They are huge because they came and learned from HAP what does our infrastructure look like? What does our leadership look like? What do we pay our staff so that they stay and grow with us? How do we grow our programs? Just today, before I came, the Hmong American Center out of Wausau, Wisconsin, they were visiting us to learn. We have another group in California coming to visit us next month. This is how we help replicate throughout the rest of the nation, because HAP has always been that leader, because we built a solid foundation very intentionally and strategically to keep growing our people, but keep growing our skills and grow with integrity and accountability.
We haven't talked about the Hmong Village yet. Where does the Hmong Village fall in the Hmong experience and the growth of the Hmong community here in Minnesota? What do you think?
I think it encompasses, I think it creates joy, right?
Yeah.
And a sense of pride.
Yeah.
Because the Hmong Town Marketplace started first. And I always tell many people, I take people here on tours. So I do tours with people here, and I kind of joke that maybe Hmong Village should pay me.
Right? You should get a commission.
I get so much sitting tours it. But the thing is that I tell people that if you want to experience the Hmong
right.
community, come here. I remember in the early 90s, a lot of gang violence in our community, and it's always front page news. And one day, one of the reporters called me, and I said, okay, what, did somebody kill somebody? Is that why you calling me? Why don't you focus on the positive aspect of our community? Go along University Avenue.
Right.
Go along these corridors where we have thriving businesses. Because you don't have to go to, to Vietnam to get your pho. You don't have to go to France to get your croissant. You don't have to go to Laos to get your mustard green. You can have all of that here, or go to Beijing to get your Peking ducks. We have that in the community. Why don't you focus on the positive aspect of our community? And I think having something like this proves to the community that we not only just survive, but we
That's
are
right.
a thriving community. And many of the refugee resettlement people back then didn't think that the Hmong were fit for resettlement. That's what they said. And I have at the Center for Hmong-serving, we collect lots of historical documents. And sometimes I read these documents, and it's like they reference the Hmong as the rednecks of Laos. How can they possibly survive, leaving the jungle of Laos and be able to thrive in the urban jungle of America, right? And so each time we have people who were involved in policy making around the settlement issues, I take them here and I say, look at this, we are actually thriving. We have, people who've cut hair, we have barbers here.
That's right.
We have lawyers in here, we have insurance, we have a lot of thriving
CPAs.
business in this area here. So I think it's a sense of pride. It's good to see it being featured on these Food Network on YouTube as well.
That's right.
They've been here and they've tasted our food and they experienced some of the joy of our community right here. So it's a sense of pride. It's a sense of pride.
Yeah.
Wow. That is really it for questions because we have gone an hour, guys.
Oh, wow. That
It's already been an
was
hour.
really quick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great place to have.
Yeah. But now I feel like we need to enjoy
Okay.
and actually eat.
All right.
And I want to thank all
Now we
of
can
you for
properly
joining
eat.
in on this conversation. I
Oh.
do appreciate it. Very
Well.
great food for thought.
And Pauline, thank you. Thank you
Thank you.
for focusing on HAP and doing a special on HAP in light of the 50 years the Hmong have been here. It is so significant because this is truly a legacy organization, not just here, but throughout the nation. And I just feel so honored that we still have all of our former leaders here that we could call on you all because this is your legacy. This truly is your legacy you guys have created. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been fun.